The Silent Maid's Curse, Part 2. A tale of vengeance, redemption, and the wrath of the spirits. The curse of the gods. A strange and powerful wind swept through Chief Obidike's compound, howling like a vengeful spirit. The once proud household, known for its grandeur, was now steeped in fear. Servants cowered in the corners, whispering of bad omens. Even the guards, strong men armed with spears, stood frozen, sensing the presence of something beyond the world of mortals. Inside the hut where Madam Nkem had once ruled with an iron fist, the air was thick with an unnatural chill. The glow of the oil lamp flickered, casting eerie shadows on the mud walls. In the center of the room, Ifeoma lay on the floor, her body weak, her spirit almost broken. She clutched her swollen belly protectively, feeling the life within her stir. Her child was restless tonight. And then, a sudden gust of wind burst through the hut, putting out the flame. And in the darkness, a woman's voice echoed, deep and ancient, vibrating through the very bones of the earth. She who sows cruelty shall harvest misery. The gods have washed. The gods have decided. Madam Nkem, who had been standing over Ifeoma only moments ago, felt her knees buckle beneath her. Her lips trembled as she struggled to find her voice. Who speaks? She stammered, gripping the edge of a wooden stool for support. From the darkness, a figure emerged, an old woman, her back bent with age, her eyes shining with a strange, otherworldly light. Her wrinkled skin bore the marks of time, but her presence carried an undeniable power. "I am the mouthpiece of the gods," she said, her voice steady. "And I have come to deliver their judgment." A chill ran through Madam Nkem's spine. She tried to speak, but the words would not come. The old woman turned to Ifeoma, who was still too weak to rise, and stretched out her withered hand. "Rise, child of sorrow. Your suffering is at an end." A warm glow surrounded Ifeoma, and for the first time in months, she felt strength return to her limbs. She sat up, her breath coming in short, sharp bursts. Then, the old woman turned to Madam Nkem once more. "But your fate has been sealed." Madam Nkem's eyes widened in terror. "No. Please. I did not mean." Her voice vanished. Her throat moved, but no sound came forth. She clutched her neck in horror, her lips moving soundlessly. A gasp of fear rippled through the watching servants. The once mighty Madam Nkem, the woman who had commanded the household with cruelty, had lost her voice. And it was only the beginning. The fall of Madam Nkem. The next morning, the household awoke to a shocking sight. Madam Nkem, the once proud wife of Chief Obidike, was found wandering the compound, her eyes blank, her hands clawing at her throat as she tried in vain to make a sound. The servants whispered among themselves. "The gods have punished her. She can no longer command us. Perhaps she will suffer as she made Ifeoma suffer." Chief Obidike was called to see his wife's condition, and when he arrived, his face turned ashen. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded, his voice filled with both anger and fear. The old woman, the mysterious messenger of the gods, stepped forward. "Your wife has brought ruin upon your house," she said. "For the sins she has committed, the gods have taken her voice. But this is only the first of our punishments." Chief Obidike staggered backward. What do you mean?" Before the old woman could reply, a scream rang out. One of the servants pointed at Madam Nkem in horror. Her skin, once smooth and radiant, had begun to wrinkle and crack. Before their very eyes, she was aging rapidly, her beauty fading, her body shriveling like a dying plant. She fell to her knees, her once powerful eyes now filled with sheer terror. "Help me," she tried to cry out, but still, no sound came. The curse had begun its work. And there was no escaping it. A household in ruins. Days passed, and Madam Nkem's condition grew worse. She could no longer stand without help. Her hands trembled, her eyes sank into dark hollows. The servants, once afraid of her wrath, now pitied her. But Chief Obidike felt nothing but shame. One night, as the winds howled outside, he sat alone in his chamber, drinking from a gourd of palm wine. His mind was filled with dark thoughts. How did this happen, he wondered. Was my household not strong? Were my riches not great? But deep down, he knew the truth. The moment he had allowed his wife to torment an innocent girl, his fate had been sealed. No. And now, the gods were collecting their debt. Then, a knock on the door. One of his guards entered, his face pale with fear. "My lord," he whispered, "the madam, she has vanished." The final judgment. A search party was sent out immediately. They scoured the compound, then the village, then the surrounding forest. But there was no sign of Madam Nkem. Then, on the seventh night, something strange happened. A group of hunters, returning late from the forest, saw a figure standing at the riverbank. It was Madam Nkem. Or what remained of her. Her body was almost unrecognizable, her skin, shriveled and gray, clung to her bones. Her hair had fallen out, leaving only patches of dry scalp. But it was her eyes that terrified the hunters the most. They were hollow, filled with nothingness. As they watched, she stepped forward into the river and vanished beneath the water. By the time Chief Obidike arrived, there was only silence. Madam Nkem was gone. And with her, the last remnants of his power. The prophecy of the unborn child. With Madam Nkem's fate sealed, Ifeoma remained in the village, her belly growing each day. But whispers had begun. The gods spared her. Her child must be special. Perhaps the spirits have chosen her for something greater. Then, one night, as Ifeoma lay under the moonlight, she heard a voice. It was not human. "The child you carry is no ordinary child. He is the answer to the suffering of the innocent. The gods have marked him for greatness." Ifeoma gasped, her hands instinctively clutching her stomach. The child within her stirred, as though it, too, had heard the words. And in that moment, she knew. This was only the beginning. For her child was a child of destiny. A child of vengeance. And when it was born, the world would never be the same. To be continued in part 3.